Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the In the 11 podcast. This is your host, Brendan Griffiths, and here's the show where we bring on those from the world of football to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. This week's guest, coming to us from Mexico, a good friend of mine. We talk about it on the podcast. We have a little bit of history as he was one of the players that I had actually recruited when I was a college coach, and made his way to actually the same college that I was at, Chestnut Hill College, and then dropped out to go and chase the dream, and is now in Mexico and is balling out down there. So Cesar May is on the podcast, and I can't wait to share his story with all of you guys out there. We have a lot of fun chopping it up and just catching up because I haven't got to talk to him in a while. But before I kick it over to him and myself, I just want to ask a quick favor of you. If you just listened to the JC Mack episode last week and you liked that one, if you're about to kick off with this one and you like this episode, then I would ask you to please, whatever platform you are listening on, whether it be Spotify, Apple, wherever you are at, if you could leave a rating and review of the show. If you're on YouTube and watching right now, leave it a quick like, a comment, and just tell us what you think about the show, because it really helps the show grow to those who haven't discovered the In Living podcast yet and who might be interested in this type of content. It really helps it grow and get the word out to those types of people. So without further ado, I appreciate all of you listening, and I will kick it over to myself and Cesar. All right, we are joined all the way from Mexico. Cesar's in the building. Happy to have him on. I've had this one on my radar for a while. I finally got hit up by a mutual acquaintance of both of us, Coach Zach. So I know he's listening to this one. And he said, "Yo, get the man on the podcast." So I said, all right. Say no more. And here we are with another episode. So, Cez, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. So first of all, we just spoke about it a little bit before we jumped on recording here. Coming from Mexico, maybe give the people a little bit of where exactly in Mexico you are tuning in from.
Yeah, so I'm in kind of just right below Texas, about 2 hours from the border,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we just like I said, it's very deserty here. It's very hot, dry, heat, and yeah, you just don't get much rain here.
So obviously a little bit of a different adjustment to where you grew up, Exton PA. If you want to tell the people a little bit about kind of where you grew up. I know the story a little bit of Downingtown East High School and all that kind of good stuff, but give the people some context to kind of your upbringing.
Yeah, so I grew up in Downingtown, PA. I went to all three schools that are around there, which is Lionel Elementary, middle school, and then Downingtown East High School.
Mm-hmm.
I played at Downingtown East High School for 4 years, and yeah, I really just enjoyed playing soccer. Wherever I could, whenever I could, growing up.
Was this always something that you kind of where you're at now? Was this always something that you had envisioned for yourself when you were growing up? Like, was pro soccer always the dream for you?
Yeah, it actually was. It was always on my mind ever since I was a little kid. Just every time I would train and play around, like I would take it 100% serious. Just being like, I want to get to that level. I want to be a pro one day. And it also sparked from like my parents and stuff. They're always very hardworking, and they always said like, you got to be very dedicated, disciplined, and hardworking to achieve what you really want. So, I took that to heart, and I kind of just did that every day.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I'm curious to know if there was a lot of other players or fellow classmates in your area that had that same dream as you. Because I speak from my personal experience where I didn't really realize that this was something that I wanted to do until much later on. Because I think a lot of just the kids I grew up with in my area, everybody just kind of knew, okay, I'll be able to go to college and get a good job, and that's what my life could maybe be like. And there was almost this acceptance of like pros are so much better than me and I'm never going to be at that level. But I think you kind of realize now, like, don't get me wrong, professional soccer players are very good, but there's not this like
Yeah.
a huge gap between, I guess us and them, so to speak. So did you have a lot of other players kind of around you that had the same goal, or was it more like a bit more self motivation from you?
I'd say it was more self motivation because I really just I don't know. As weird as it sounds, I never really planned for like college.
Mm,
I come from a household where none of my parents went to college. They all just came here and started a life of just working and every day get up and stuff like that. So I first of all I didn't like know what the whole process of going to college was, let alone what playing for a college and being able to get scholarships and all that stuff. I was not aware of that. So for me, it was like 100% going towards just playing pro. That was just my mentality. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I just have to get there somehow.
yeah. So then how did that play out with your actual parents? Because I imagine, with them being having never gone to college before, right? And they do work hard. I think they probably could see that maybe you going to college could have been a good path for you to take, right? That's what a lot of parents want for their kids, is to go and get a college degree, and it will maybe provide them a little bit of security or something like that. So what was that process like for you deciding going to college? Obviously we'll get into it where you went to college for a little bit.
Yeah.
But was this like, how was this decision to go and play taken by your parents?
To go and play for college, you mean?
So
Or
I guess
pro?
I realize I'm jumping all over the place. So talk to me about leaving college, which we'll dive into a little bit. But leaving college and now being in Mexico, how that was taken
Yeah.
by the parents.
So my parents have always been very supportive of me. They've
Mm,
always said like, whatever decision you take, you we're 100% with you. There's no judgment from us. Like whatever you want to do, we will be like right by your side. So that for me, it felt like they were with me, and I could do whatever I really wanted, and then I didn't have to worry about like, oh, this is like a certain path I have to take before I can actually do what I want to. I can just go directly to it.
yeah.
And then one thing that really stuck with me was I was I got like the opportunity that said like, hey, like go to Mexico, and you have an opportunity to go play and stuff. And I was just like really thinking about it because at that point I was in my sophomore year, I want to say sophomore going into junior year of college. I was like halfway through college, I was like, you know what, another 2 years and then maybe I could try it. I was sort of getting into that mentality. And then my dad told me, and he said, and it really stuck with me. He said, um, this opportunity may only come around once. And if you don't take it, you could be stuck with like, what if,
Mm,
what if you went, what if you tried, and it really stuck with me and it made me think like, yeah, like why not? Just go all in and take this opportunity and see what comes out of it.
yeah. I mean, so many players have that mindset, man, of just nobody wants to ask the question of what if, because I think that's one of the scariest things for just people in general and in any profession, regardless of athletics. The question of what if you had done something is not something that you want to be asking yourself 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Um, but yeah, I have to imagine that must have helped you so much to have your parents' support in doing this. I know for me, like, that was always something I'd kind of said. I was like, if I was trying to do this and my mom wasn't backing me, that would be a really tough one for me to go. You know what I mean? Because there's like,
Yeah.
you can handle a lot of noise from the outside world, like people that don't really know you. Oh, why you leave? Why you doing this? Okay, sure, whatever. But when mom comes through and she's like, hey, I don't know about this decision, then it's got a little bit of different weight to it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my mom is, she's loving and stuff. So she's always like, well, like, there's bad people out there, and you gotta really take care of yourself. Them knowing like that they've lived in Mexico and stuff. And I told her, I was like, I mean, there's crime and stuff everywhere. Just gotta stay away from the bad influences and stuff. And I told her like, I'll call you guys every day and we can talk.
Yeah.
And it was mostly, I think, from her, she's just realizing that I'm just gonna leave,
Yeah.
not be around, or like be 30-minute drive away from college. I think that's what mostly it was from
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, moms just they always wanna protect you. I get it. But if I know we jumped ahead there for a second, so if we rewind the clock just a little bit, um, you wound up choosing Chestnut Hill, which for those of that listen to my podcast, obviously know I'm an alum as well.
Oh yeah,
Um, and obviously I play a small role in your story here and how you wound up at Chestnut Hill. But I want to hear it more from your perspective as how you chose, even going to college at all or playing college soccer, and how
yeah,
Chestnut Hill kind of landed on your targets.
yeah. So I guess it started with like high school, and I had one of my soccer coaches. His name's Tom Creighton, um, and he kind of got that idea. Same with one of our goalkeepers. His name is Dan Good, who plays at Westchester right now. And they kind of were like, "Oh, like, what are you gonna do? You gonna go to college? Like, what's going on?" And I was like, "I mean, sure, why not?" I really didn't know what the whole process was. I was so lost in it, and thankfully, they both helped me a lot. Especially Dan Good. He literally helped me like write out my emails. I remember going to like a Starbucks once, and he's like, "All right, so like this is what I usually do." He made one of my highlight videos, and we just started sending them out. And for me, it was like, wow, I can actually go and try to get help with an athletic scholarship, academic scholarship, and keep playing, which was another thing I really
Mm.
wanted to do. So the thing was, I started pretty late. I didn't realize that you had to start sending emails like so early in like high school and stuff. I started around like the beginning of my senior year, I want to say.
Mm.
And, everything was so quick. I literally sent out all these emails. And I also talked to Matty Carey. He was like, oh, like Chestnut Hill, you might, we got D2, and, it's a good group of guys, and Coach Zach. And so I was like, I mean, you know what? I'm going to send an email out, tell him like my game schedules for my club soccer games. And, he came out to some, and eventually we started talking, and I decided to go to Chestnut Hill.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm sure you're learning too. It's funny how small the soccer world is, like, because obviously now being in Mexico, you're in your same team as a player from Chestnut Hill as well. So it's like, and I talk to
Yep.
players all the time. Well, I'll have somebody on as a guest, and then somebody else hits me up, and they're like, "Oh, you know that person?" And it's just like the world becomes smaller and smaller the higher that you go up. But
100%.
yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it was funny. I remember I I was like my first time being a college coach, and I'm the assistant at Chestnut Hill right after I graduated, and I didn't really know like how to recruit properly. So like all of a sudden, I like now most college coaches, they just go to showcases or whatever. Nobody really goes to high school games anymore. But I was like, well, if I'm around,
Yeah.
let's go to some high school games. I went. I watched you play. I think you played. I want to say it was like Father Judge or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe your
In
senior
in
year.
Philly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
I went home, and because obviously Matt, you played with Matt, and Matt was on the team at the time, and I had like two or three players written down. And I was like, who's this Caesar kid? And he was like, oh yeah, he's really good. Blah, blah, like told me the whole thing, and then
Yeah.
um, you know, I'm bringing him to Zach, and I don't know of your how much you recollect kind of from your recruitment process with Zach. But I remember it being kind of one of those things, and I had to do the same thing with David, where David was a recruit that I brought in, and I was like,
Mhm.
Zach, I think he's a really good player. I really think he's a good player. Sure, maybe a little undersized, but I don't I don't care. Like technically he can hang here. And he was like, okay, sure. And I think it took me a while to like have him actually trust my evaluation of players. Um,
Yeah.
but sure enough, lo and behold, you go and attend Chestnut Hill and right off the bat have a pretty successful freshman season from what I remember. Obviously, I wasn't there, but that freshman season, you came in and played pretty much off the bat, right?
Yeah, I think I talked to Coach Zach or something, and I don't think I was expecting really to play as much as I did, but I'm very grateful I got to play.
Mm.
Because it's awesome just being on the field, with the guys and just at Victory Field on a sunny day or something, or under the lights. It's the best feeling. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was. And it was funny too because then I remember when I left and took the job at Widener. Uh, Zach was kind of like, ah, yeah, I don't know about, because at first I was like, all right, I'm not gonna like, because obviously I liked you as a player, and if I was recruiting for Widener, I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit him up there as well. But I was like, I recruited him for Chestnut Hill, so I don't want to try and steal a player from Zach. And Zach was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if he's gonna play a ton. Like, feel free to reach out if he wants to have more options. So sure enough, did the same
Yeah,
thing, and then Brent Jaquette, who was the coach there, it was like same thing. Like, yeah, he's a little undersized, blah blah blah. I'm like, Jesus Christ, these American coaches and they're freaking. You got to be at least this tall to ride the ride. Like, what are we doing right now?
of course.
But
Yeah,
I'm happy that you
that was
found a
part
home.
of it.
Is that something that you've kind of experienced in your career? Like maybe being a little bit overlooked. I mean, especially in a place like America, being a little bit overlooked because being undersized or because being whatever.
Yeah, so I've heard that my whole life. You gotta be this tall. If you're
Yeah,
not this tall, you can't compete. And for me, I kind of just didn't really pay attention to it. I kind of just focused on my technical side of it.
yeah.
I said if I can just play around a player, I don't need to beat him physically or anything. So I just focused on that.
Like I think especially in a place like America, and maybe we can speak to it a little bit later. I'm sure it's probably different now playing in Mexico, playing in a different culture, but especially like in college soccer, it was just something like, is he big enough? Is he fast enough? Is he athletic enough? And I never really used that as a metric, I think, to be able to evaluate a player. I think sure there's coaches that want a certain thing, are looking for a certain type of player, but I mean, man, if you can play, you can play. And I really think that that's all there should be to it.
Of course, I mean, I look to all the professional players around the world, and just you don't really got to look that far. Lionel Messi,
Yeah.
he's not tall at all, and he's tiny, and he literally just beats anyone that gets in his way. And for me, that's just like what I look up to. I don't really focus on, you know, I have to be this big, so you have to be this big. All right, like if you're not this big, you can't play at this school, you know. And
Yeah. So
yeah,
did you get used to that kind of process of, because I think it's something that a lot of pros have to get used to. They have to get used to being told no or being, not picked for a club, not picked for a team, etc. Every player is going to experience it. Did you kind of get used to that at a young age and maybe get a bit of a thicker skin towards it, or just more like resolve to be able to not take that so much personally?
yeah, I did. I never really took it personally. Um, I just, like I said, I focused on everything else, every other aspect, like I can control. I can't really control my height,
Yeah,
so I was like, all right, but I can control like how well I can bring a ball down from the air, or how well I can ping a ball, or just focus on like every little detail I can, other than the stuff I can't control.
yeah, 100%. So what's, in that process when you're later on in your high school career, maybe early in your college career, what's the training like for you? Are you doing well above and beyond what everybody else is doing? Are you at the pitch on your own with other guys that are trying to do the same thing as you? Like, kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I literally just, like I said, since I was a little kid, I would always go out and train, right? So I was basically used to just training, most days, and I literally just decided to like keep doing that, I wasn't really aware that we did fitness tests and all that, but I think from just playing every day and training with my club team and stuff like that, you get fit no matter what, you're just playing every day. And for me, like that's something I didn't focus until I guess, after my first season with Chestnut Hill. Um, and I kind of just kept doing the same stuff, doing ball work stuff, shooting, crossing, all that stuff.
Hmm. How do you? This one might be a good thing for a lot of players out there that are listening, like players that want to do the same thing, maybe younger players. Um, how did you kind of like structure when you would go and train? Because I see a lot of young players. They'll go to the field and maybe they'll have a couple balls and they'll just like rip shots for an hour, right? It's
Yeah,
like, let me see how many free kicks
100%.
I can take here. So what would you
Yeah.
advise to like a young player that's listening? Like if you're going to go to the field and train, maybe kind of set it up like this, or this could be a guide for what you could maybe sort of use.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm also guilty of, going an hour and just shooting at the goal.
I mean, every once in a
You know,
while it's good.
of course, yeah. But for me, when I would go alone, I really have started focusing on just analyzing what I do in games, right? And say in a game, I get forced to my left side, and my left foot isn't where my right foot's at, right?
Mm,
And they forced me to go play a long ball, and that long ball didn't go where I intended it to. So what I do is I structure, some game-like situation with either cones, and or a buddy of mine, and I literally just work on that. All right, like I'll just get all these long balls down the line, and literally just make a little box or something like that to mimic where it like when it would happen in a game, um, or if I'm honestly like kind of just even a more simple term, kind of just getting beat because of speed or just fitness wise. If I'm not there, I'll literally just work on that
mm.
stuff. Doing sprints, extra sprints, and stuff like that. Yeah, I really just base it off of what I did in a game and how I can make it better.
Yeah. I think that's key though, what you said, like taking kind of the actions or the situation that you're going to find yourself in a game, um, and and then creating a situation that's going to allow you to work on those things, whether it's the things that you're already good at or whether it's the things that you need more work on. Like if you're if you're a right back, like do you need to work on shooting that much? Probably not. You need to work on something else a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Putting yourself in like you said, a game-like situation is really important. And there's a way that you can even take simple things, but just by applying a level of intensity to it or a level of
100%.
speed to it, that you can make it more game-like. Is that what you tried to do as well with your training?
Yep, I try to make it as game like as I can. I'm also like guilty of here and there overtraining, and
Mm,
I've gotten told by my coaches like, hey, you gotta really listen to your body, and I really never did that, until
yeah.
I've gotten told by one, two, or three coaches, and they said like you're at this point now where if you don't listen to your body, like you're gonna end up getting injured, and it's gonna be 10 times worse. So they said like if you're feeling a bit of soreness or tightness, anywhere on your body, really listen to that, really try to treat it, take care of it so that the next day you can, perform again.
Have you especially started to realize that now, being where you are, like at the pro level, understanding like having your body fit and healthy is kind of like the most important thing, and it's where you make your money now, right? Like so if you can't perform, if you're not eligible to be picked or eligible to be playing because you're injured, that's gonna overall hurt your career. So have you really started to step up your recovery kind of game?
100%. I literally I take all these supplements. I do a foam roll. I have a Theragun. I use all those things just to keep my body at 100%, or as close to it as I can, because um, injuries just pop up out of nowhere. And if you're training 100% every day, going 100%, competing, you're going to get some, nicks here and there. And, you're going to get tight, you're going to get tired. But that's the only way to really grow as a player, become better, And you just got to focus on taking care of your body and realizing that, like, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just to hammer that point home, I would advise any player out there listening that hasn't really dived deeper into that yet, that like one thing for sure too, nutrition, like taking care of what you eat, and then couple that with actually taking care of your body is the earlier that you can do it in your career, even if you're at a point right now where you're like, oh, I'm young and my body's fine and I'm nothing's gonna affect me, like start it now because it happens like quick. You see those players that they pick up one injury a little bit later on in their career, and then all of a sudden it starts to snowball because they don't really take care of their body and they don't take care of the other side of the game, which is like more important. I'm sure you're seeing now. You train probably what 2 hours a day, maybe at most, and the rest of the time is like actually recovering and trying to get ready to go train again, right?
Yep. So those 2 hours are kind of like, think of like an 8 hour work day, right? Like a nine to
Yeah.
five or something like that. But it's all just compressed into 2 hours. So you're just running, defending, attacking, focused for 2 hours, and you just get drained. And hydration is very key. Getting, all your vitamins and stuff in, and really just listening to your body is one thing I've learned. Just listen to your body.
Mm.
Um, because if you're not feeling it one day, it's better to just, take a little rest, tell your coach, like, hey, like, I have this going on, and really just talk to him. And he'll, our coach, at least, he'll understand, and he'll be like, all right, like, do this. And it really helps us with just maintaining our bodies at 100%, where come game day, you have all the players to choose from instead of, oh, this one has this and this one has, another thing. And, it just benefits the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we get to now kind of how you made your way down here, right? We just talked about your freshman season at Chestnut Hill, had some
Yep.
success, and then that was so if I'm have my timelines correct, I think that was 2019, right? And then 2020 was where your sophomore year was, but you didn't really have that season due to COVID,
Yep.
correct?
Yep. Yeah, so COVID happened. We love it. Um, COVID happened, and at that point, I was in college. We weren't doing anything, right? We were all online, and it got to a point where I was just like, what's going on with soccer? And I started thinking, kind of second thoughts came in, and I just said, like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on finishing my college,
Mm,
and just get my degree and probably just go off, find a job and stuff. Even though it like really hurt internally to say that,
yeah.
because you've grown up your whole life just training and wanting to get to that level, and all of a sudden the whole pandemic happens and you're on lockdown, you can't go outside, fields are closed, so you're not training, or you're not having the same intense training that you probably would. I remember just Paris. We would go to like some field and just get kicked off immediately. And then we'd go to another one, just keep getting kicked off. And then like 2 hours go by and we just really didn't do much.
Mm,
And it got to the point where like, I wasn't really training. I was more focused on school. And, I was just like, maybe just focus on school. And then when the season comes up again, train again. I would kind of stop thinking like, you know, you have to train to go pro. So
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think everybody, especially players, everybody obviously has an experience that was in some way difficult based on COVID, right? And I think players especially had such a tough time with it because like Sergio was obviously Sergio and was a goalkeeper for those listening that we had on the podcast a while ago, and I remember him telling me like while he was going to train with his brother, he just had like a moment where he kind of just like broke down and was like, am I never going to play soccer again? Like, is this kind of the extent of what I have now? Just me going to train with my brother and my younger brother who's still playing college, like helping him get ready. Like, is this what my career has now come to because COVID took it away? And like it sounds like you kind of had a similar experience. Like I remember I had a similar experience too. Like I had come home from Germany and was trying to go back, and then I had so many days where I'm just like home and I'm walking around my neighborhood like, is that really it? Like am I done? Like is it never going to happen again? And it's such a tough thing. Like I don't quite know how I was able to have the type of resolve to keep training. Like when when I still have that mindset of like, is my career over? But clearly you were able to still find something deep within that was like, no, that can't be how my story ends. This can't be the last chapter of the book here. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, so literally, yeah, it really sucked coming to that like realization or starting to like believe that, and it really just came from me just seeing my family
Mm,
and how much they have just dedicated, like my parents have just dedicated themselves to just have me be like set me up for everything, just going to college. They, helped me get to college. I was like, all right, I can't just like let this go.
mm,
I and also like my dad, he used to play and stuff, and he said, it's always going to be bumps in the road, and this is one big bump you just got to get over if you really want to keep going. And I was just listening to that stuff, and he really brought it back, and he said like really think about why you really want to do this. Really think about all those hours that you put in the backyard or at the field. Do you really just want to give up now and just say like, all right, I'm happy with what I did, or do you want to just keep trying and see where it can take you still?
mm.
So that stuff like that really helped me out. All that advice to just really ignite again that fire that I had ever since I was a little kid. That little dream, just of wanting to become a professional soccer player and doing that every day of my life for a living.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the my favorite quotes that I kind of would keep at the forefront of my mind when in situations like that was you didn't come this far to only come this far, right? And I
Yep.
think I had that in my mind the whole time. I was like, man, I didn't come this far to just all of a sudden the pandemic happens and then it's over. And clearly the same thing happened with you. And I almost wonder if there's a little bit of fate there in the sense that had you actually just kind of thrown in the towel and said, well, the pandemic is super tough and I'm just going to focus on my career. Like, who knows if this opportunity would have presented itself in the same way, or if you would have been ready to, go and take it in the same way to get down to Mexico. Can you talk a little bit about how this actually presented itself to you, this opportunity to go to Mexico, and then maybe what influenced your decision to head on down there in the midst of all this COVID stuff?
Yeah. So it kind of just all sparked from just how they say like your network is kind of like your net worth.
Exactly.
And so like my dad, he's always my dad and my mom, they're always super proud of I guess like me just being the first in my family to really go to college and stuff like that. And they're always super proud. They always take the pictures, take the videos, and not only just for them to just keep as their memories, but also to share with all our family who's scattered across like the U.S. and Mexico, and
Hmm.
stay in touch with them. So it kind of came up from my dad just talking with another coach. He would take my little brother down to play, and this is how much they love us. He takes my little brother 4 hours, down in Maryland to just go train, and that's how dedicated my family is, and that's what I really realized when with the pandemic and all that going on, how dedicated they are to my brother and I. And so it kind of sparked off from, my brother going down and playing for that coach. And that coach, he had a contact, and this contact was a scout from Mexico.
Hmm.
So this was around, I want to say, my freshman year when it like ended around November, kind of, right? The season ended and stuff like that, and I was, my legs were hurting from the season. You know how it was 3 months just going every day and playing twice a week. So we got that contact, and he said, hey, like if you want to bring your son out, um, the scout's gonna be here. You can watch him play and see, give us some feedback.
Hmm.
So that was all happening throughout my college season, so I couldn't really go down 4 hours, right, when practice would end, at night. So I kind of had to wait until the season ended, and I went to one of them. And after that first one, he like pulled me aside, pulled my dad aside, and said like, "Hey, look, like I would really like for you to come to Mexico and really just um, try out, for this." It was another team at that time, but
Okay.
we got to talking and stuff, and I got really excited. I was like, wow, this is going to be something that I can really, you know, start my dream with. Just really, um, just implement myself and just really, just it kind of just sparked it up again.
Yeah.
Just keeping it alive, that flame, and so that happened, and right after that, COVID came around. So that scout kind of just he went back to Mexico, and it was like a year and a half that went by, but he still kept in contact with me, which was amazing. He would call me, be like, "Hey, how you doing?" and stuff. And I would always tell him like, "Hey, I'm doing good," going to the field and stuff like that. But it was never the same as it was before
Yeah.
because of the pandemic. And then around what was it last year in June, I want to say end of June, I finally got to see him again, and he tells me like, "Hey, there's this opportunity I can get you in Mexico, which is the team I'm at right now." And he said, "You have to. They're actually just starting preseason, and if you want to go, I need like an answer in the next like 3 days." And that's when it everything just hit me. I was like, "Whoa!" I, it's the middle of a pandemic. I have my family here. I have everything here. I'm in college. Um, what do I do? It was just everything was. I was just like in shock. And I really talked to my family, and that's when my dad came up to me and said, like, this is an opportunity. Who knows if another one is gonna come?
Mm.
And because I was very like, I was just on the line of like, do I go? Do I not go? Like, trying to weigh out the options and like how, all the variables and stuff that come with it. And I decided to just go. I told him, hey, I really want to go, but I need at least like a week to talk to all like my college coach. At that point, we had our new coach, Coach Ock, and I had to talk to him and tell him like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to be going, and I'm glad he was very understanding of it and really supported me with it. And so, after a week, I packed my bags, packed everything I, thought I needed, and I made myself down to Mexico, and I landed in Monterrey. So yeah, I landed in Monterrey, and I had to get like a 3-hour bus ride to Monclova because there's no flights that come to here, like
Hmm.
international. And yeah, I got here around 3 a.m. on July 5th of 2021, and our coach, he went to go pick me up. He greeted me and he said like, "Hey, welcome." I got here to the clubhouse, and he said, "We have training at 7 a.m." And I was like, "All right." So yeah, that's kind of like how it went.
And as they say, the rest is history, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of just you just take a leap of faith and hope for the best, and that's kind of just what happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's amazing, man. I love the element of that story, like, because I've heard it time and time again, where um guys they'll get an opportunity, and it's like it's there, but it's like you got to take it or leave it right now. You know what I mean? That's how fast
Yep.
football sometimes moves, and that's more common, that experience that you have, which I'm sure you're now learning. Like, guys make decisions in a split second because they're like, hey, I have this window. Do you want to come? No, okay, I got to move on to the next player. So it's like, man,
Yep.
sometimes it's not, it's not like picking a college where you can take a year to decide and go on all the visits. It's like, hey, it's here. Do you want it? All right, cool. Vamonos. Like,
Exactly. I like I said, it was just a whole shock because the whole pandemic really kind of just it was putting that flame out, of wanting to be a pro slowly,
mm,
and it was slowly going out, and it came right at just the right moment when it's just like, all right, I'm gonna spark it right back up, and with this opportunity, and I really just began to think about like my family and everything, and how they have just dedicated themselves to really give me the best opportunity to succeed
mm.
with whatever I want. So I decided to just take it and go with it.
Yeah, mate, and I'm so happy that you did, and I mean, I'm proud that you did make that decision that you've done, and you still now stuck it out because, like, and obviously it has nothing to do with me, but it was nice to even play such a small role in that. Because I remember at some point, it was maybe right before you left. I think you texted me or you called me and just were like, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Like, what do you think?" And I remember you and I talked, and I remember saying to you like, because you were kind of talking about the difference between college and going right, and
Yep.
I remember saying like college is always going to be there, like, and you know this too, like you can move back to the States one day once your playing career is over, and if you want to finish up that degree, like that's going to be there. But like you said, like your dad said, that's the I guess the beauty and the curse of football is like there's only this window, right? Like unfortunately
Of course.
we can't be pros when we're 55. Nobody's going to allow it. Nobody's going to sign us.
Yeah.
So we got to kind of capitalize on the window, and you were like, yeah, I think you're right, and boom, next thing you know, like you're there and playing, and so how did, after all that lead up to that decision, how was the experience that first season? Did it live up to the hype, the expectation?
So the season it was awesome. We got to one final and then we got to a semifinal.
Mm,
Um, because it's kind of split up into two. It's called Apertura and Clausura. So it's kind of think of like two tournaments that you play in a year. And yeah, it's basically you get two opportunities to win the whole league. And the cool thing about it is if one team wins like the first tournament, right, and then another team wins the second tournament,
hmm
those two winners, by the end of like the season, they go against each other, and there's one more title that they can fight for, which is kind of like it's called the Campeón de Campeones, which
hmm
is it translates to Champion of Champions
mm,
from here in Mexico, and yeah, if we would have won, we could have, bragged about, hey, like, we got that, we won that trophy. So it's awesome. I grew up watching Liga MX, so I knew about it. I really didn't know much about like the other leagues, but they're basically run the same, and it's awesome. Just you get to travel and go to these different stadiums. The best stadium I went to so far is the one it's called Oaxaca.
mm.
It's it's a big stadium. Think of the Union Stadium. It's
Okay.
huge. It's awesome, and just getting to be there, and it's on natural grass and stuff under the lights. Just it brings back like all those little childhood memories that you get. Like, oh, I want to play in this big stadium one day, and score like this 90-minute winner and be the hero of the game, right? And
Yeah.
it just brings back those memories that I had as a kid, and it makes you feel good, just saying like, hey, like I'm here right now, and you just have to take it all in, and that's the best thing I can say. Just take it all in and really
Yeah.
um, experience it and go with it, because like you said, the window of I guess even being a pro isn't that big, you know, and at any
Mm,
time it can just be taken away from you. So you really just got to take it all in and enjoy it, enjoy the whole
100%.
process.
100%. I'm glad that you can understand that now, as being such a young player and so early on in your career as you are, because it was something that that I didn't do a good job of. Like I was, I was a player who was always looking at what was going to be next, what was around the corner, where was the next team I was going to play. Can I raise the level a little bit? And I think I needed to stop and just kind of like do exactly what you just said, like just be in the moment. And like, this is amazing that you get to go and kick a ball around and just experience it for exactly what it is. What was the first moment for you that you kind of, because I'm sure it was a whirlwind of deciding and then traveling to get here, and then was there a moment like, maybe the first time that the kit was laid out for you, or the first time you were in the starting lineup, or something? Was there a moment where it was kind of like, oh shit, this is kind of cool? Like,
Yeah, I literally, I think that moment, yeah, it's very special to me because it was a good and bad moment. But
mm,
it was the beginning of the season this past year, first season. I get to go out on the starting lineup, right? And I'm just going through it. I have, butterflies in my stomach. I'm just, my head's all over the place. I'm nervous. I have every type of emotion you can think of.
mm,
Walking in the locker room, having your jersey just hung up, and you're just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna put this on. And then coach comes in and he says, hey, like, you're in the starting lineup, and it just felt surreal. And then the best part about it was I got to, like when teams line up and they walk out from the kind of like the tunnel, we kind of line up and do the same thing. And just walking out and just seeing all the people there, it just kind of gave me, just felt unreal, literally. I got to be like, wow, I'm here right now and I can, you know, play in front of all these people under the lights. Just walking out was probably that moment that really sealed it in for me that this is really possible.
yeah. Yeah, it is a crazy experience. I think especially like doing it in a foreign country, there's something that's kind of, obviously I know you have family roots to Mexico, but there's something just different about going somewhere new and then walking out and seeing all these people that have come out to see you play, and they don't really know you, and it's almost like you kind of have to win them over with your play, like with your play out there, and kind of make a little bit of a name for yourself. I think it's what's kind of cool about the journey of a professional footballer. It's all about going and seeing if you can make some noise and seeing if you can make a name for yourself. So what was that like for you, coming to a place where, yes, it was far away from your immediate family, but there was also a little bit of familiarity, if you will, right, with the language and kind of family history to it? Did it make that move a little bit easier for you?
Um, yeah, the move for me was a bit different from what I'm used to. I'd say just of how like Mexico is, it's just very different. Here you can
Mm,
walk anywhere you want to, kind of like in the U.S. You drive wherever.
mm,
It's kind of like the thing, and just not adapting to it, but just realizing like, hey, like I want to walk everywhere. I didn't mind it because I love walking and stuff like that. But just those little things, those that just you don't really expect until you really get there. Um, because like at home, I had a car and I could just drive wherever I wanted to.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, I guess the weather. I didn't really expect like just heat basically all year round. And um, in the U.S. you get winter and all that stuff, fall and all that stuff. But here it's just plain heat. You wake up, it's like 95 at like 7 a.m. in the morning, 8 in the morning, and by the time you're done training, it's probably around 100. So just getting used to stuff like that really taught me like, oh my gosh, hydration is really like a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when you first joined this club, like, did you sign a 2-year kind of contract with them, or was it for the season, and then after the season you were thinking about what was maybe next, and it came about to rejoin?
Yeah, so this past year, 2021, you basically get signed for the season. So however long the season is, that's how long the contract goes for.
Hmm.
And after that, and just head back home. I got home around, I want to say like mid-May, and I just didn't really hear back, because we were trying to get promoted to the next league, and all this stuff was going on, where like the directors and stuff were really trying to see like who's gonna come back and who's not. And just one day, I literally just get a call from our coach, and he's like, "Hey, like, I'm gonna, everyone's coming back. You're coming from out, so I'm gonna give you an extra week for you to come back, get your stuff sorted out, and then get back." So it kind of felt like when I first left, where you get like a week.
Yeah.
But this time I was like, all right, I already know what I'm going to. I already know like where I'm getting and what I'm like going to be doing. So it was a lot easier just getting here this time than last
Mm. So when you go home for an off season like that, what's kind of your mindset? Like, are you looking at other opportunities? Like, are you talking to other people to kind of see what else is out there, or are you just kind of focused on waiting to hear back from your club and then go from there?
time. Yeah, so that was an option. Sorry.
No, you're good. No worries.
Let me move back into. Hopefully it's a little more quiet now. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I've been in those exact same situations before where you're living with a ton of guys.
Yeah, it's not bad, but sometimes
Yeah.
there's little things. But yeah. So this off season, right? I came back and like I said, when you asked me about like training and stuff, how I regiment my training, I
Mm.
really realized that this past season I really wasn't where the fitness needed to be at. Even though I felt like fit, maybe for um, back when I was back home, like playing, maybe I was fit there. But getting to here, it's a whole another thing with fitness. And every field is different. And some, they feel like you're running on sand and stuff like that. Like it's a heavy
Mm.
field, some are lighter and stuff like that. And it really made me realize that, like, hey, like I need to get more fit. So this whole month and a half that I went back home, I really just decided to focus a lot on my fitness and still like doing, technical stuff, all that stuff, but really focus on running more and getting more fit so that
Mm.
come preseason I can um, do better than I did last season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you mentioned a little bit there, like now maybe this preseason is a little bit interesting. There's lots of trialists coming in. I'm sure there's new players, there's returning players. Like, what's kind of been the experience so far? Obviously, I'm sure it's still new into the preseason, but
Yeah, so there's a trialist coming in and stuff like that where, all these guys are looking to take or get a spot on the team. So um, this is how a lot of people that play this sport live. And it really makes you realize, like, hey, like, they're going all out. They're trying to win a spot so that they can, you know, help maybe their families and stuff like that out. Um, and it makes you realize, like, hey, like, you got to be there 100% every single day.
yeah. Yeah, without a doubt, man. How have you felt like the off-season training has prepared you going into the preseason? Like, do you feel fit? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel kind of like you've been kicking off well so far?
Yeah, I think, this past week, just preseason and stuff, we had like 3 days, 2 days, and I've been good. I've really honestly enjoyed it. Just being happy with the amount of work I put in. You could say in this month and a half that I went home that it's paying off of it with just, running and
Mm.
honestly getting much better times with all the tests and stuff like that.
Mm. Good. And as you look forward to this season, maybe even beyond this season, what are some of the goals that you have set for both yourself, for the team? What are you kind of looking ahead to?
Yeah, I think the biggest goal for I'd say the team is to just win a championship. We've come so close and so far that it's kind of just like it's about time that we win one. With the first tournament last year, we make it to the final and lose, and then this past one that we make it to semifinals and lose. So, we're always there competing, and I think a championship would really help the team, the club out to really solidify itself, in these leagues and keep moving up. And as for my personal goals, I I kind of just want to focus on my mental part of the game. I
Mm.
don't think it's talked about enough, and I last season, that was one of the big struggles I had. And this season, I kind of just been working on the mental side of it, and also really just implementing myself into the starting 11 even more, and just getting more playing time, and just play more.
So when you say the mental side was a difficulty for you or something that maybe you struggled with a little bit, can you expand a little bit on that? Because I think I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's something that's not spoken about enough. And I think a lot of players maybe have bad habits that they were either taught or that they learned about how to kind of mentally approach the game. What did that really entail for you when you said kind of the mental part was a battle for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the mental part, that comes with like pressure and trying to play up to what you've trained, and
Mm.
being there um, with just being present and not letting little things get to you, not letting that little voice in your head just dictate how you play and stuff like that. I think that played a big role in me where I kind of just started doubting myself a lot, and I've started to learn that like you just the more relaxed you can play, the better you'll play. You don't really have to think. Those are the best times when you'll be playing, and I just focused on, I guess, just trying to implement that in every training session, and just getting used to it little by little.
Are there any strategies that you are using, whether it be meditation or kind of self-talk or anything, using a sports psychologist, anything like that that you've kind of started to utilize for yourself? Has it all been through research that you've done and just kind of testing out things that have worked for yourself?
Yeah, it's mostly been a lot of research. Everyone's different, so you kind of just find what really fits you. I've really picked up about a lot of like reading,
Mm.
and I think one of the books I'm reading right now is The Inner Game of Tennis. I think it's by Tim Galloway, and it's a great book. I'm loving that book. But I think in the beginning chapters, it talks about self, like yourself, right? It's kind of, if you think about it with like two people, right? It's like
Mm.
the one that's the mental part of it, and then the other one that actually does the work, right? And um, the book talks about just how sometimes the mental part says like, "Oh, you can't do this," and then like the actual physical part of your body that does it, it doesn't do it because it's already doubting itself.
Mm.
So it really opened up my mind to just show me that like, wow, like your mental part of the game really, really matters, and with being locked in and just performing. Um, so I really focused on having that attitude of like, you can do this. It's fine. Like if you make a mistake, the next play is probably the most important one that's coming. So just forget about this one that just went by and prepare for the next one, and just focusing on stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember the title of the book. I always forget this book. I don't know why, but there was something that I read about it that I still try and think about it, and it kind of encapsulates what you were just saying there. And it was saying how, and it can definitely be applied to sport or to football, but it was saying how we all have kind of two wolves within us, right? And
Yep.
the one is the doubt and anger and sadness and depression and like all of those types of emotions, those negative emotions that we normally would associate. And then the other is the other ones, joy and peace and etc. And it was essentially like very simple. And it was like, whichever wolf is the loudest or whichever wolf is going to show up the most is the one that you feed the most. Right. And I was like,
True.
such a simple thing, but it started to really click for me. Like, whichever one I buy into when I'm out there on the field, whichever one I start to let have a voice, if I let the one that's saying, "Oh, your last touch was poor, so it's going to go out of bounds again," or you can't complete a pass, or you're probably going to lose it. Like, if I let that voice be louder than the one that says everything that I've done well today, or what I'm capable of doing, or what my training has allowed me to do, then sure enough, that wolf is going to overtake, and there's only now going to be one wolf. So I think like what you're saying is so important for players to realize. Agreeing with what you were saying, that I think it's so important for players to realize, because it's like, I'm sure you've seen it too. There's players who are incredibly talented, but if they don't have the self belief, if they don't have the mindset and the will to be able to actually perform, then unfortunately it's not gonna come to fruition for them as a player. And I'm glad that you're realizing that
Yeah.
at a younger stage
Yeah.
in your career.
You learn as you go, and I'm really glad I'm uh, taking this and really trying to make it better. You always want to work on your weaknesses. That's what I've been taught. So um, any little thing that you can
Mm.
work on is, it's just going to help you more. It may not be the most fun thing, right? Like who really wants to read, but when you really start understanding it and you really start saying like, all right, like this is an area where I can improve, and you really take it upon yourself, and it helps you immensely. It's just, the mental side is just important as the physical part of the game. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, this has been fun, man. I enjoyed catching up. I enjoyed getting your story. I'm sure the people did as well. What's the rest of preseason like? When does the season actually kick off?
The season starts around, I guess, mid to end of August. So right now we're
Okay.
just doing preseason. I think once trial lists and stuff are out of the way and we kind of solidify more of the team, we're probably going to be heading down to this other area where the team used to be at. It's called San Pedro, and we're going to be running out in like basically the desert, which is just sandy areas and stuff for preseason, which is awesome. And
Mm,
it just goes to show like the difference in trainings everywhere else. You're not
yeah.
just on a track running or on a field running. We're getting taken to the desert and just running on sand. Doing sprints up sand hills and stuff like that. It's insane, and I love every part of it. You know,
It's like you're going to fight camp.
exactly, yeah. And so yeah, that'll be preseason, and hopefully we'll kick off the season with a win and just keep getting more wins and hopefully really win that championship, which is one of my personal goals, and I'm pretty sure it's the team's goal as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm sure the audience will appreciate it as well, and Coach Zach for sure, because I know you're listening. Um, Talking all that shit. Of course, I was gonna have him on. Of course, I was gonna have him on. How about when I first wanted to recruit him to Chestnut Hill, and you were like, "Oh, I don't know. How about that?" Yeah, how about that?
uh, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, man.
uh,
Thank you for having me. It's honestly an honor. I love listening to the podcast and just being part of it now. It's amazing. Thank you for having
yeah, man, you're cemented in history.
me. For sure. Yeah. I'm excited to listen back to this as well, tell my parents about it, see if they want to listen to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. You got to get the whole fam, the crew, everybody to listen. Matty
Oh
Care is gonna listen. I know if he can
yeah.
like find his
Shout
phone
out
if
to
it's not lost
Medicare.
somewhere.
Shout out to all the boys from Mermaid Lane.
Hell yeah.
Love that house. Yeah. Thank you for having me, man.
That's going to do it for this week. to thank Cesar for jumping on and taking some time out of his schedule, out of his crazy preseason schedule, to chat with us, to share his story. Once again, as I said at the top, I want to thank all of you out there who are listening and encourage you, if you liked this episode, please pause right now, leave a rating and review on whatever platform you are listening to. That would be greatly appreciated, as it helps the show reach those people who might be interested in the content but have not yet discovered the N11 podcast. Thank you, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.